Your parents thought I'd never amount to anything.
The Santa Claus wasn't just a holiday comedy. It was survival in a fat suit. Behind the jolly transformation, Bill Murray walked away. A TV star was told he couldn't open movies, and Tim Allen spent the summer drowning in latex, cursing at children, and nearly throwing punches with his director. These are 17 weird facts about the Santa Claus, and buried in the bonus, a gun, a burglar, and a much darker Christmas. Number 1. Bill Murray and Chevy Chase both turned down the role. Before Tim Allen ever put on the red suit, Disney had other plans. Bill Murray was at the top of the list. Fresh off Scrooged in 1988, he seemed like the perfect choice. A proven comedy star with Christmas movie experience. There was just one problem. Murray hated Scrooged. The production had been brutal, the tone never clicked, and he swore off holiday films for good. When Disney came calling with the Santa Claus, Murray didn't even hesitate. He passed immediately. Then they went to Chevy Chase. Chase actually considered it. He read the script, took meetings, but his schedule was packed. He declined due to conflicts. After that, Disney cycled through a wish list that read like a Hollywood phone book. Tom Hanks, Robin Williams, Mel Gibson, Tom Selleck, Kurt Russell, all considered, none committed. The studio was getting desperate. They needed someone who could carry a family comedy, someone audiences already loved. That's when they landed on the guy from Home Improvement, the one who'd never headlined a movie in his life.
I'm in big trouble.
Number 2. The 1-800-SPANK-ME joke became a national scandal. Early in the film, Scott's ex-wife hands him her new mother-in-law's phone number. Scott glances at the paper and cracks a joke. 1-800-SPANK-ME. I know that number. A throwaway gag. Except there was one massive problem. 1-800-SPANK-ME was a real phone number, and it was an active adult hotline. When the Santa Claus hit theaters, nothing happened. But when it hit VHS in 1995, kids could pause the scene, write down the number, and call it. One 10-year-old girl racked up a $400 phone bill. Two 9-year-olds cost their parents $500. The hotline charged between $2.50 and $4.99 per minute, and the message? Explicit, graphic, absolutely not meant for children. Parents lost their minds. Complaints flooded Disney. News outlets picked up the story. Disney tried to buy the phone number to disconnect it. The company refused to sell. So Disney did the only thing they could. Starting with the 1999 DVD release, the scene was removed, gone from every future home video, broadcast, and streaming version. If you watch on Disney Plus today, that joke doesn't exist, but the phone number, still active, still a adult line.
Are you with Hatsutashi?
No.
Dad wants the turkey.
Number 3. For 1 week, Allen ruled the entertainment world. November 1994, The Santa Claus hit number 1 at the box office. Home Improvement was the number 1 show on television, and his book, Don't Stand Too Close to a Naked Man, sat at number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list. All at the same time, 1 week, 3 number 1s. It had never happened before. Allen wasn't just successful, he was everywhere. The trifecta made headlines across the industry. Variety called it unprecedented. Entertainment Weekly ran a cover story. And Allen? He barely had time to process it. He was too busy promoting the movie, shooting the show, and squeezing in book signings between takes. The moment didn't last long. Nothing that perfect ever does. But for 7 days in November, Tim Allen wasn't just a star, he was the star. And it all started with a fat suit he could barely survive.
Number 4. The fat suit took 3.5 hours to install. Every single day, Tim Allen sat in a makeup chair for 3.5 hours. Not minutes, hours. The transformation into Santa wasn't a costume change. It was an engineering project. First came the prosthetics, layers of latex applied to his face, his neck, his hands, then the fat suit, multiple versions depending on how far along Scott Calvin was in his Santa transformation. 75 pounds of padding, foam, and fabric, strapped, glued, and secured to his body. The crew worked in shifts. Makeup artists, costume designers, special effects techs, all hovering around Allen, while he sat motionless, waiting to become Santa. And when the day wrapped, another hour and a half to remove it all, peeling off the prosthetics, unstrapping the suit, scrubbing away the adhesive. If you do the math, that's 5 hours a day spent in a chair. Not acting, not filming, just becoming and unbecoming. Allen later admitted he admired Eddie Murphy and Jim Carrey for doing similar transformation. There's no way to get around how uncomfortable that is, he said. I don't know how these other guys did it, but he didn't have a choice. The suit was the movie. Without it, Scott Calvin never becomes Santa, so Allen sat and suffered and came back the next day to do it all over again. Number 5. He could only wear the suit for 6 hours maximum. The fat suit wasn't just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. 75 pounds of latex and foam with almost zero ventilation. Alan's body heat had nowhere to go. The padding trapped everything. Sweat, moisture, heat, it built up fast. Within hours, his skin started breaking down. Heat rashes spread across his chest and back. The adhesive caused scratches. The constant friction left scars, and in a few spots, infections set in. The medical team on set stepped in. They imposed a hard limit, 6 hours maximum in the suit. After that, they had to pull him out. Not for comfort, for safety. If he stayed in it any longer, the damage would get worse. So every shooting day became a race against the clock. Get the Santa scenes done before the 6-hour mark. If they didn't, they'd have to reset the next day and start over. 3.5 hours to get him in, 6 hours to shoot, an hour and a half to get him out. That's 11 hours devoted to a single costume. And Alan did it over and over. Not because he wanted to, because the movie demanded it. Santa Claus, it turns out, was a health hazard. Number 6. Filming took place during a summer heatwave in Toronto. The Santa Claus is a Christmas movie. White snow, cold air, holiday magic, except none of that existed on set. Filming took place in late spring and summer 1994 in Toronto, and that year, Canada was burning. Temperatures soared, humidity spiked, outdoor locations became ovens, and Tim Allen was trapped inside 75 pounds of latex. He was miserable. Cast and crew later admitted it was one of the most uncomfortable productions they'd ever worked on. Allen would finish a take, rip off parts of the costume just to breathe, and collapse in the shade. Between scenes, he'd start ranting, profanity-laced tirades about the heat, the suit, the schedule, and that became a problem. Because the set was filled with children, dozens of young actors playing elves, students, and background kids. They weren't supposed to hear a sweaty Santa screaming obscenities. So the crew started pulling Alan aside. Timeouts, cooling breaks, moments to let him vent away from the young cast. Actress Wendy Crewson later said on Biography, "You didn't want the kids around when Tim got going. He would go on these hilarious rants, streaked through with obscenity. It wasn't meanness, it was survival. A man in a furnace, trying to stay sane long enough to finish the day. And somehow, through all the heat, all the cursing, all the misery, they made a Christmas classic." Number 7. The Santa suit was covered in bells that ruined the audio. The costume designers wanted authenticity. Real velvet, hand-stitched filigree, and for that extra festive touch, tiny bells, hundreds of them sewn into the fabric. On a hanger, it looked perfect. On Tim Allen, it was a nightmare. Every step he took, the bells jingled. Constant ringing. The sound team couldn't get clean audio. Dialogue was buried under metallic clinking, and there was no way to fix it on set. The bells were sewn in, so they kept filming, and Allen kept walking, and the bells kept ringing. By the time production wrapped, the editors knew the truth. Nearly every scene with Santa would need to be redubbed. Allen had to go back into the studio months later and re-record most of his dialogue using ADR, automatic dialogue replacement. I ADR'd most of that film because people said, "What's all that ringing?" And it was me walking. The Santa suit looked incredible on screen, but every word you hear, that's Allen in a sound booth, months later, trying to remember what he said while wearing a Jingle Bell disaster.
Number 8. Eric Lloyd knocked out his teeth during filming. Eric Lloyd played Charlie Calvin, the kid who believed in Santa before anyone else did, and halfway through production, he lost his front teeth. Not naturally, at a hockey game with his family. Lloyd was at that age where teeth fall out anyway, but these got knocked out, hard. The production panicked. They had scenes left to shoot, close-ups, dialogue, emotional beats, so they called his orthodontist. Emergency visit. Custom fake teeth, called flippers, were made. Little prosthetics on a wire that Lloyd could pop in and out. For the rest of filming, every single scene, Lloyd wore fake teeth. And somehow, no one watching the movie ever noticed. Lloyd later said, "There's no real baby pictures of me without my teeth, because I always had fake teeth for acting." The hockey accident became part of his childhood. A kid who grew up with flippers in his mouth. Also, Santa's son could smile on screen. Number 9. Michael Eisner ordered, "Cut out every scene Tim Allen is not in." The first cut of the Santa Claus was too long, nearly 2 hours. Disney ran test screenings and the notes came back brutal. It dragged. That's when Michael Eisner, then head of Disney, delivered one blunt note: cut out every scene that Tim Allen is not in. The film had focused heavily on Charlie's life outside his relationship with Scott, scenes at school, dealing with bullies, processing his dad's transformation. It gave the kid depth, but it slowed the movie to a crawl. So the editors cut over 30 minutes of footage. Entire subplots vanished. Charlie's school struggles? Gone. Anything without Tim Allen? Erased. The result was a leaner, faster film, but it turned Charlie into more of a sidekick than a character. Eisner knew what audiences wanted. More Santa, less kid. The cuts worked, but somewhere in a vault, there's 30 minutes of Eric Lloyd acting his heart out that no one will ever see. If you're still watching, hit that subscribe button, because this Christmas disaster is about to get even weirder.
You don't believe in Santa, do you?
Calvin.
Number 10. Tim Allen's first feature film ever. Producers were nervous. Tim Allen was a massive TV star. Home Improvement was the #1 show in America. But movies? That was a different game. According to screenwriters Leo Benvenuti and Steve Rudnick, the pushback was immediate. Studio executives told them flat out, he can't open a movie, he's a TV star. It was the oldest bias in Hollywood. Television actors don't translate to the big screen. Audiences won't pay $12 to see someone they watch for free every week. But Disney was running out of options. And Allen had something no one else brought to the table: timing. He was everywhere in 1994. His face was on magazine covers. His voice was in stand-up clubs. His brand was middle-class dad chaos. So they took the gamble. They cast a first-time film actor to lead a $22 million Christmas movie. And then they held their breath.
Charlie did. Before you went to bed Christmas Eve.
Number 11. Budget, $22 million. Box office, $190 million. Disney didn't expect a massive hit. The budget was modest, $22 million. Then it opened. November 11th, 1994. Opening weekend brought in $19.3 million. Debuted at number 2 behind Interview with the Vampire. Then came Thanksgiving weekend. The Santa Claus exploded. $27.4 million over the holiday frame. It climbed to number 1. Week after week, families kept coming. By the time it left theaters, $145 million domestically. Worldwide, $190 million. Nearly 9 times its budget. It became the sleeper hit of the season, not because of star power or marketing, but because audiences found something they didn't expect: a weird, warm, surprisingly funny Christmas movie. Disney had gambled on a TV star, and the TV star delivered a franchise.
I knew that something was going on.
Number 12. It beat Arnold Schwarzenegger and survived a vampire. Opening weekend, The Santa Claus finished second. Interview with the Vampire owned the box office. But when Thanksgiving rolled around, it overtook everything. Arnold Schwarzenegger's Jr. opened the same weekend. Universal expected it to dominate. Jr. pulled in $13.4 million. The Santa Claus crushed it with $27.4. Even Star Trek Generations fell to second place with $19.1 million. The little Christmas movie that Disney almost didn't believe in had become the biggest film in America, and it stayed there through December. Families came back for repeat viewings. By the end of its run, it had outlasted vampires, pregnant action stars, and the Starship Enterprise. All because Tim Allen put on a fat suit and suffered through a summer in Toronto. Turns out, Christmas magic is real. It just cost $22 million and a lot of sweat.
Dad, I'm fine. You can't let them down.
Number 13. The child actors genuinely believed Tim Allen was Santa Claus. Dozens of kids were hired to play elves, some as young as 5 or 6. They showed up and saw Tim Allen in full costume. White beard, red suit, belly like a bowl full of jelly. And they believed. Completely. To them, Tim Allen wasn't an actor. He was Santa. The crew leaned into it. When Allen was in costume, he stayed in character. But that created a problem. Between takes, Allen was known for ranting, cursing, letting off steam. Devastating if a 6-year-old heard Santa screaming obscenities. So the crew started pulling him away from the child actors. Then, once calm, they'd bring him back and he'd be Santa again. The kids went home and told their parents they'd met the real Santa Claus. And for them, it was true.
Look, there's Mom and me on the street. We go there next?
Sure.
I made something for them at the workshop.
Number 14. One kid in Charlie's classroom has elf ears. It's easy to miss. Charlie tells his class his dad is Santa Claus. The kids laugh, all of them. Except one. In the back, there's a boy. Dark hair, quiet, watching. And if you look closely, you'll see it. Pointed ears, elf ears. While every other kid cracks up, this boy stays silent because he knows. The detail was intentional, a hidden Easter egg. The elves don't just live at the North Pole, they're everywhere, watching, making sure the next Santa is safe. Charlie was surrounded by elves the entire time, and that quiet kid, he wasn't laughing because he knew Charlie was telling the truth.
I deliver toys all over the country, so in a way, I'm like...
Number 15. Allen nearly got in a physical fight with the director. The treadmill scene. Scott goes to the doctor for a physical. For Tim Allen, this was torture. He was wearing a 50-pound false gut glued to his shoulders, and he had to run. The prosthetic started ripping his skin. Allen was already dealing with heat rashes and infections. Now, the treadmill was tearing him apart. He reached his breaking point. Allen started yelling at director John Pasquin. The argument escalated. Voices got louder. And for a moment, it looked like it might turn physical. 2 grown men about to throw punches on a Disney set. Cooler heads intervened, but the tension lingered. The treadmill scene made it into the movie, played for laughs, but every second came at a cost.
I think it's a much better idea that you stay here with your...
Number 16. Allen was writing his first book during every break. Most actors rest between takes, not Tim Allen. He spent every break working on his book. Don't stand too close to a naked man. A writer waited in his trailer. Any break I had a guy in my trailer, he told ABC News. That was really stupid on my part. The book hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. For 1 week, Allen had the trifecta: #1 movie, #1 TV show, #1 book.
You're the least selfish person I know.
Number 17. The dance scene was completely improvised. The montage shows Scott's transformation into Santa, and in the middle, there's a dance. Tim Allen, Eric Lloyd, David Krumholtz, and elves moving down a hallway to ZZ Top's Gimme All Your Lovin'. It was never scripted. Director John Pasquin told them to just go for it. They grooved down the hallway. 1 take, no rehearsal, no choreography. Pasquin kept it in exactly as it was. For a production that had been grueling, that dance was a gift. Sometimes, the best moments are the ones you never plan for. Bonus fact, Scott Calvin was supposed to shoot Santa with a revolver. The original script was much darker. In early drafts, Scott didn't just startle Santa, he shot him with a revolver. Scott heard a noise on the roof, thought it was a burglar, grabbed his gun, and fired. Santa fell, dead. Tim Allen later revealed this on The Tonight Show. Scott originally pulled a revolver on Santa. The tone was too violent for a family film, so the writers removed the gun, made it an accident. The darkness faded, but somewhere in the script archives, there's a version where Scott Calvin is a killer, where Christmas magic is born from bloodshed. Disney made the right call, but the original idea? That's the kind of premise that keeps writers up at night. The Santa Claus was never supposed to work. A TV star's first movie, a fat suit that nearly killed him, a sex hotline scandal, a director who almost got punched. But somehow, through all the chaos, it became a Christmas classic. 30 years later, families still watch it every December. If this one hit home, drop a comment. Tell us what holiday disaster we should unwrap next. Because sometimes, the best movies aren't made, they're endured.